What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 7 ultimates that you suck at using in Season 27. This is going to be the top 7 most picked characters and the ultimates that you are just not getting enough value out of. So we're going to be breaking down exactly what you might be doing wrong and give you some actionable tips about what you can do to pop off with them, because everyone knows you get more value with your ultimates, you win more fights, and you win more games, and you climb as a result. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality advanced guides over every single character in the entire game. If you want to set yourself up for success and climb in Season 27 in Overwatch, then do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below to start your journey to Grandmaster. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, kicking it off with the 7th ultimate on the list. Now, this is a character that might not be popping off in Grandmaster or anything like that, but he just got a buff, and he already sees quite a bit of play in the lower ranks, so I thought I'd break him down, and it's none other than Genji DRAGONBLADE. Now, the thing about Genji is his DRAGONBLADE is one of the most important things that you need to be consistently performing at, because his power level is really ultimate heavy, meaning if you're not getting a lot of value out of his ultimate, then what are you doing playing the character? Now, a lot of times people want to know how you get value out of DRAGONBLADE without nano or a damage boost. And yeah, while that can be difficult, it is possible, but this is how you have to do it. The first thing that you could do is get a really quick blade. This can happen if you are aggressively poking and you build up a blade basically before the enemy gets defensive ultimates, and you use it to increase the momentum of the already ongoing team fight, and you try to just overwhelm the enemy with burst damage. Think about 2 brawl compositions going at each other, and when both teams are weak on abilities, weak on resources, weak on shields, and maybe even low on health, that is when you blade because you built it up so quickly. Now, one of the only ways for you to build up blade this quickly is by aggressively taking an off angle and spamming into them. It's going to be a little bit easier now with the buff on Genji, and then trying to reflect as many fire strikes as possible. Just playing with your Rein, constantly spamming the enemy and reflecting the enemy Rein's fire strikes. If you can hit multiple members on the enemy team, not only can it get them really low, but a lot of times you're going to build up tons of ult charge in the process. That could be one of the best ways to get a fast blade. Now, if you can, you always want that nano, that damage boost, or that bubble from Zara. But if you can't, you still need to identify who you can kill at the very minimum 100%. Before you start the blade, you should have an idea of who the target is going to be and what cooldowns are you specifically trying to play around, because that can change up how you blade. For instance, let's say you want to dash really high up, get a nice vantage point on the battlefield, but you know that the enemy McCree has flash. Making sure you don't jump before your blade, so you have a jump mid blade to actually fade that flash, getting just out of its range could be an amazing thing to do, and it's something that you can do to dodge a lot of different CC. Perhaps maybe you want to go on that Ana, but you want to dash through her, turn around, and then instantly reflect to potentially reflect a sleep dart in your most vulnerable moment. That could be a viable play, but you have to be thinking about everything before you go in for that blade. Otherwise, you're going to have to process a million bits of information all at once, and that's going to be very difficult for you to do on a fly. So I'd highly suggest before you even start the game, think about how your ultimate pairs up against the composition that the enemy team is playing, and you're gonna give yourself a much better shot of actually getting kills with your DRAGONBLADE. Now, move on to the next ultimate that players are just consistently using wrong, but it's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful ultimate in the entire game, and it's GRAVITON Surge in our number 6 spot. Now, GRAVITON is, of course, the most reliable ultimate to combo with a number of different ultimates, so I'm not really going to talk about that here. That's pretty textbook. What I am going to talk about, however, is just using it to win a team fight by itself. The best thing that you could actually do with the GRAVITON to almost assuredly win any team fight is if you are at parity in numbers, you can use a GRAVITON to either get a solo kill or a duo kill and almost always win that team fight with that first blood. This is especially valuable as a preemptive to the enemy using ultimates, because everyone knows that you could grab a Genji if they're using Nanoblade, right? But sometimes that always doesn't go right, and you could still lose a team fight. But imagine you know that the enemy Genji has Blade, so before he even has a chance to set up a Nanoblade, you just grab him and you kill him, and then you win the objective, you win the point, you win the payload checkpoint, and it doesn't even matter. That enemy never got a chance to use that ultimate. You could do the same thing against a number of enemies, like Azara steps out of position without her bubble. You know she has grab, just freaking grab her and solo kill her. Now they do not not have their game combo winning ultimate, and they're just gonna lose the team fight. Essentially what I'm saying is you should not only be ult tracking to decide when to graviton, but you should never get too greedy with your ultimate, because you realistically only need to either shut down their game winning play or ultimate combo, or just get a single isolated or dual isolated kill, and a lot of times that's enough momentum to win the team fight by itself. So if you take anything from this, just keep in mind that you do not need to get 6-man gravitons to win team fights. In fact, a lot of players, especially at the low ranks, hold on for their graviton way too long trying to get that perfect graviton and end up not getting anyone with it, or just using it in an already lost team fight, and that is just completely unacceptable for this top tier ultimate. Now moving on to the next ultimate that you are using incorrectly in Season 27, our best #1 DPS, and it's McCree, and it's his High Noon. Now everyone wants to get the 6-man High Noon. I bet you there's some freaking clips on the screen right now of some 6-man High Noons, and I know High Noons are really satisfying to get a lot of, but how many times are you going to be able to pull that off? Not very much. There are 2 reliable ways that I think you should be using High Noon consistently in your games to get you value almost no matter what. The first one is have a Rhine when you're playing on point, on an objective, on a payload, whatever, before the fight is about to start, or right when it's about to start, you High Noon from behind a shield. You can't get slept, you can't get shot, and enemies are basically going to have to retreat. But here's the thing. Make that time that they have to retreat cost them. Let's say you're pushing up on a payload, you're about to cap an objective, and then you High Noon behind a Rhine shield. What does the enemy have to do? They have to touch point, but what happens if they do? They get killed by you, and they can't deal with you, so they're just out of options. Realistically, they got none, and you can use that to your advantage to really mess up a dive. And sometimes it works really well if enemies are like half committing and half not committing, because they never do enough to get past that shield. Now the second way that I would suggest using High Noons is simply using it to shut down those flying motherfuckers. And you know who I'm talking about. Echo, Pharah, Mercy. These characters are really annoying for McCree to deal with, especially if they fly really far away. But especially in the Mercy Pharah case, if these people are too high up and isolated, High Noon is a guaranteed kill on them. And I know that this actually applies double for those of you that are on console, where Pharah Mercy feels absolutely oppressive. Well, High Noon is the perfect combo to get a double kill and shut this duo down again and again. When they're out of position, just save that High Noon for that exact scenario and punish them for it every single time. So now they have to play incredibly passive, and they just can't spam to the same amount. Now we're going to the next ultimate that I needed to talk about in this video, and it's actually Hanzo Dragon Strike. Now, I typically say there's 4 ways to use Dragon Strike, and these are the only 4 ways you should use Dragon Strike. I'm going to run through them quickly because there's not a lot of time in this video. But first off, it's with the combo. Pretty obvious. Combo with Graviton, combo with Shatter, whatever the case may be. Combo is consistent. The second way that you can use Dragon Strike is to get a solo kill. You're getting one person with your Dragon Strike. That is perfectly fine. If they're in a position where you see them through the wall, you know 100% they'll die to your Dragon Strike. Do it. Dragon Strike's a very fast building ultimate, and getting that solo pick out of nowhere, that could be enough to just win team fights. If I could get 1 kill for every Dragon Strike, I would take it again and again. Now, the next way to use Dragon Strike is to actually split a team. This works incredibly well when the enemy team is full committing to an objective, for instance, like you're about to cap in the same way that I talked about with the High Noon. You use Dragon Strike to split the enemy team, and you can really focus your fire on the team that's up front and basically just shut them down or kill them before the enemy team can catch up to really help them. And then the last way to use Dragon Strike is in a pinch when you need it to create space. This is like retaking a point, for instance, when you don't have a main tank. Your main tank is dead, but you have to retake or the enemy's gonna cap. You can use your Dragon Strike to force enemies off the point, give you a little bit of breathing room, so you don't just have to rush to point right where the enemies want you to be and then die. And a lot of times, if you do this right, you could damage enemies, force them off, and then you could use that to create an opportunity to further win the team fight or turn that numbers disadvantage. Now I'm going to the next ultimate that you are using incorrectly in Season 27. Back into the limelight, it's your boy Lucio, and it's Lucio Beat. Now I know, there's one way to use Lucio Beat that is probably going to get you value on average a pretty decent amount of time, and that's just using it to counter. You use it to counter Graviton. Use it to counter whatever the hell. It doesn't even matter what it is. This is a way to get consistent value and win a pretty substantial amount of team fights that otherwise you would have just lost. That being said, first off, there is ways to do this incorrectly. The biggest mistake that I see when teammates get grabbed is someone beats too early. They beat too early, meaning that the beat actually wears off, at the end of the Graviton, and some type of ultimate actually really shuts them down. For instance, if a blade is being used with a Graviton and you beat right when the Graviton starts, towards the end of the Graviton, the beat is fading and the Graviton is fading, but you're still close enough together where the Genji can slash dash, burst through that last bit of layer, and punish you. A pulse bomb can do a very similar thing, so you got to be extra careful about that. Sometimes Lucio beat is not going to be enough to heal through, especially big combos like Grab Dragon. Now, something that a lot of players don't do, which is actually a big travesty, and it's beating aggressively. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a scenario where if a Lucio would have just beat it aggressively and pushed in or sped boost his team in, they would have won the team fight and capped the point before the enemy had any chance to rally and use their ultimates. Now, you might be thinking, hey, the enemy has a freaking Nano Blade, and I'm gonna die to it if I don't save my beat. Well, guess what? You already got 2 kills. If you stay on for a tick on this point, you win. And if you just beat in right now, you make sure none of your teammates die, and you go kill the rest of them with confidence, you're gonna win before they even have a chance to respawn. But a lot of Lucios will wait, and because they don't wait, not only does their team not push in fast enough to clear the point, but the enemy regroup and never even need that ultimate, or some of your teammates die because you didn't beat and you didn't get to get a clean wipe of the enemy. You got to be thinking about things in team fights won or lost. If you're using the beat aggressively to win a team fight, or you're using the beat defensively to potentially stay in a team fight, either way, you're doing very similar things, but the aggressive one can just win you the round right there. So it's really important for you to understand when an aggressive beat is the most value, and if it can win you the fight or the game, do it. Don't just tunnel vision on saving it for some sort of combo that the enemy team might not be able to get off if you just actually use this correctly. Now move on to the next ultimate that you are not using correctly, season 27, and it's actually EARTHSHATTER. Now EARTHSHATTER, everyone knows that EARTHSHATTER can completely carry a team fight, and it feels terrible to be on the receiving end, and it feels amazing to be the one that just constantly gets these shatters off again and again. Now the first thing that you need to understand is you do not have to shatter the enemy Rhine. Say it with me now. If you don't shatter the enemy Rhine, you're worthless as a human. Wait, that's not it. A lot of Reinhardts really just want to shatter the enemy Rhine. They want to put him on his back in the most sus way possible. No, they actually just want to outplay this kid. They want to win the Rhine v Rhine battle, but the thing is, you don't always have to shatter that Rhine to win the Rhine v Rhine war. And what I mean by that is, many Rhines, to set themselves up in a proper position, will keep their backline actually vulnerable to an EARTHSHATTER. For instance, if the Rhine wraps a little bit too far to your left and he leaves a window where you could shatter like 3 people on the right side of him, you could shatter those people and then you could block the enemy Rhine to block for that counter shatter, and you're just going to win the team fight because 3 of the enemy team is down, your team is still behind you, and they're going to be able to either get those kills, especially while the enemy Rhine shatters, or they're going to be able to focus that Rhine down and he's not going to get any support from his team. Either way, it's really important for you to understand that there are going to be opportunities that you can set up on Rhine that doesn't involve actually shattering the enemy Rhine. And while yes, there are tons of plays that you can make, like pushing through the enemy shield, trying to catch the enemy off guard, catching him in a fire strike animation, which is something that low rank Rhines do all the time. They don't even care about blocking a shatter, and you just respond to that with your shatter and you just shatter the entire enemy team. Sometimes baiting a Rhine into a quote unquote 1v1 can actually hide your true plan, which is shattering their backline. Now moving on to the last ultimate that is incredibly important for you to understand how to use correctly, because it can be the most powerful ultimate in the entire game in the right hands, and it's Pulse Bomb. And the reason why this ultimate is so powerful is because it can just get picks every single fight. You build it up so quickly, you could Pulse Bomb, get a pick, Pulse Bomb, get a pick, and just win fights off the back of this over and over again. But a lot of people are really bad at sticky Pulse Bombs. Now, I'm going to give you a few pointers so that you can hit more Pulse Bombs and carry more games. Now, generally, I would suggest getting good at either the 180 or the 90 or both of them, because when enemies are strafing left and right, hitting a 90 on them basically means that they're strafing left and right, which is going to be straight forward and back on your screen. And then if they're backing up or standing still, blinking behind them is going to give you a really easy Pulse Bomb right on their back. Now, something else that you should be doing with Pulse Bombs just generally is closing the distance and almost being body to body with someone before you stick that Pulse Bomb. That's how SBB does it and is incredibly consistent. And while it isn't the only way to hit Pulse Bombs, it's going to be the most reliable. possible, making sure that you route as close as possible to an enemy so that you can save your blinks to blink in aggressively, hit that pulse bomb, and then recall away just to guarantee that stick. And something that you can also do is go into a training room up against bots that move and practice sticking pulse bombs. I promise you, just doing a day of this, it's gonna make you loads better because many people just don't practice a pulse bomb. Now, the last thing that you need to understand about pulse bomb is there's ways to do it without sticking a target. Specifically, slept targets are targets that you don't want to pulse bomb directly because the actual stick does damage and will wake them up. And if they have something like a bubble or a recall, you don't want them to get woken up because they can just ignore the pulse bomb. So you want to stick it right to the side of them, which is still a guaranteed kill. And in a similar way, a lot of times when enemies are stuck in a graviton, you often want to do the same thing and then burst down any bubbles that you see. Now, all in all, these are the top 7 ultimates that you really need to master for Season 27. But if you want to master more, then you got to go check out the GameLeap website in the links down below for high-quality advanced guides, tips and tricks, and ultimate guides on every single hero in the entire game. Do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for coming by. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and see you tomorrow. Coach Mills.